lot of this fat where it's at least a 1/4 inch. So this isn't bad, but all this hard fat is gonna come off, and then we're gonna dig in deep here. This big hard piece of fat off because that won't render. Why I'm cutting this out is because if I ever wanted to make burnt ends, that comes from the point. So when I'm cutting this out, I can actually season more of the point. So when I take the brisket off after the cook, I can cut these up into cubes, sauce them, and then make my little burnt ends. So whatever I decide later on. You can save the fat and use it as tallow, meaning, you know, you could save it and use it as cooking oil for whatever else you want to cook. Or if you do get a big piece of meat that you accidentally cut off, you can save it and, you know, use it for burgers or whatever else you would like. But I pretty much cut off as much as I want without getting too much into the meat. And then now we're gonna flip it and start trimming the other side. For the back side, the fat side, a lot of people do it many ways. I've seen some people completely take it off. But how we're gonna do it is that we're gonna try to our best is just to do a 1/4 inch of fat throughout the entire brisket. Because this fat's pretty soft for the most part. This is gonna render down really, really well in the cook. And it's only just gonna bring more flavor. And then when we do a 1/4 inch, and as you cook, the fat is going to get smaller. So when you slice, it's probably gonna shrink half that size. So every bite you take, it's just gonna be like just the perfect amount of fat. So I'm gonna trim right here, because this right here is where it's a little too thick. I'm actually going to cut right here to get this part out. It's really not needed. This right here is too much fat, but I'm actually gonna leave all this right here because just a hairline. It's actually less than a 1/4 of an inch, but that's just the way it is, how the brisket came. So I'm just gonna leave it like that, but I wouldn't go any further than about that much fat around. Just try the best you can. Then we'll start seasoning. You know, the benefit of cutting the flat is now I get to season this and actually penetrate the meat. It's just gonna come out for a way better bite at the end of the cook. And when you're seasoning with salt and pepper, because it's such a big meat, you know, you can definitely season really, really heavy. Don't be scared. It's a huge piece of meat. It's not gonna over salt it. Trust me, you're actually doing a favor. Because when you do it heavy like this and you smoke it, it'll actually form a crust. If I can't get the sides, I'll season my hand and I'll just pat the sides like that just to get it on there. We're actually gonna let this sweat out for about 15-20 minutes. The reason for that is the salt's actually gonna penetrate the meat. It's gonna pull moisture from it, and the brisket's gonna look a little wet. That's what we want, because as we're smoking, that's what's gonna form that crust on the outside. It's gonna be roughly 10 hours, maybe more, a little bit less. Each brisket's different, but we're gonna start off at 225, fat side up, and we're gonna cook that up until an internal temperature of 165. After that, we're gonna wrap the brisket nice and tight, and we're gonna put it back on the smoker, and then we're gonna turn up the grill to 275 and take it all the way. And we're gonna look for tenderness that's around 195, 205, and then we'll just keep checking, and then after that, we'll cut it and show y'all. So the grill is at 225. We got the brisket seasoned both sides, salt and pepper. We're gonna put it on. Fat side up, I should add. And then another tip is that when you're placing it on the grill, try to scrunch up the meat. Bring it it'll cook the way you place it. So when you scrunch it up, you'll actually get little thicker cuts on the flat side because this is so small. So try to scrunch up the best you can. You'll get bigger slices. So it's been about 3 hours since I put the brisket on, so I'm gonna check to see how it's looking. And it turned out pretty good. On the left side, I'm gonna give it a little spritz with just water so it doesn't dry out in the cook, like that. And then the flat's looking pretty juicy. You can see all the water right there, the juice right there. But yeah, just like that. And then I'll check it back in an hour. So it's been about 7 hours. My grill's my grill says about 160, 165 degrees. We're gonna just double check to make sure. As you can see, it's climbing up pretty good. It's 160 right there. 165 right on the dot. So now we're gonna take it off and we're gonna wrap it. So how I'm gonna wrap it is that I wanna create a little bit of space at the beginning of the paper. You wanna wrap it really, really tight. I just wrapped the brisket and you wanna put it back in, still fat side up, so make sure where the fat is at. And then now we're just gonna shut it and we're gonna actually turn up the grill to 275. We're gonna make the brisket tender, so we're looking at about 200, 205 degrees internal, and then we'll check in a few hours. Brisket test, it holds under its own weight, but pulls apart just like that.